like that. Well, what's up, guys? Good afternoon. It's been out for a little while. Decided it's obviously the weather's nice today. It's nice and hot today. Thought I'd take a little wander over to Mudshoot Farm. It's a nice little farm. Plenty of animals to see. Obviously, you can tell that the animals are very well looked after there. I have to say. You can tell that they care for the animals a lot there, and obviously the animals are happy and healthy, and that's what you like to see. Um, Unfortunately, I did have to have a little word with a guy that was there. Obviously, I was looking at the sheep, so I looked at the house and stuff. But they have a house at Mudshoot, which is quite cool. They used to have horses there, but I think they got rid of, like, they had to get rid of the horses and everything. But they do still have cows there and sheep and all of that. Um, and various different types of, like, chickens and all that kind of thing. So I was watching. I went over to look at the pigs. Now on the fence where the pigs were on the fence, there was a sign that said, "Please do not try and touch the pigs because they might bite." Now, you'd think that people would, obviously most people would have common sense to not obviously try and touch them, and obviously to read that sign, and not try and touch the pigs just in case they do obviously bite, in case they do bite. Now, unfortunately, there was a guy standing there with his little boy. This little boy was no older than about 3, 4 years old. And he was stood there, and he was basically encouraging his son, like his little boy, to put his hand over the fence and try to touch the piece. And I was shocked at this, as I was like, there was a sign there warning people not to do that, and he was basically encouraging like encouraging his child to do exactly what that sign was warning people not to do. So I went over to him. I didn't have a doubt, and I said, "Mate," I said, "Don't." I said, "Don't do that." I said, it's not safe." I said, "Read that." I said, "Read that sign. There's a sign there. Read that sign." I said, "Have you actually read that sign?" I said, "It appears you haven't." He said he claims that he didn't notice the sign, but I think a lot of people would have noticed that sign very easily. Um, I mean, I don't want to think that he was just showing complete disregard for the sign and the fact that it was warning people not to actually try and touch the pigs because they might, because the pigs might bite. Um, that it did feel like he was showing a sort of disregard to the sign and not, he didn't really, he wasn't really bothered about the fact that he didn't really care about the fact that the sign was warning people not to do that for, purely for safety reasons. Those signs like that are there to keep people safe, and are there to stop people from getting hurt, which is what could potentially happen if you tried to touch one of the pigs. You could potentially get hurt because the pigs might bite you. And I didn't want that to happen to the little boy. I didn't want him to get bitten by one of the pigs because his father was encouraging him to do something that the sign was warning people not to do. Um, I didn't have a go at him. I wasn't rude. I just said to him, "Mate," I said, it's probably best you don't encourage your child to do that because there's a sign warning people not to try and touch the pigs for safety reasons." Because I imagine that the pig's teeth are quite sharp, and obviously if they bit someone, it would probably cause quite a nasty injury, and I didn't want the boy to get hurt. I didn't want him to, suffer a nasty injury as a result of being bitten by one of the pigs. It just shocks me the fact that this guy was encouraging his child to do that when there was a sign there warning people not to try and touch the pigs due to, the pigs, might, due to the fact that the pigs might bite. Um, but there are some people that are like that though. Some people just don't even, don't choose to ignore the signs there. That it's sad that some people choose to ignore the signs that are there to keep them safe. Essentially, it's sad that people choose to ignore the rules or ignore the safety warnings when there's a sign there warning people not to do something, some people choose to ignore that, and it is sad, and I obviously, it's sad to think that that child had have been hurt because his father was allowing him to do something that he probably shouldn't have been allowing, was encouraging him to do something that he probably shouldn't have been encouraging him to do. I don't mean to go, I mean, it's like, I guess I just get angry at things like that when people are encouraging their child to kind of do things that they shouldn't be encouraging their child to do. It does get me a little bit wound up. It's like, why would you encourage your child to do something that you probably shouldn't be encouraging them to do? Why would you encourage your child to try and touch the piece when there is a sign there warning you not to do, like warning you not to try and touch them because you might get bit? You know, some people just don't care, do they? And it's like, I feel like these places are flipping, wasting their time putting putting these signs up. There's a lot of people don't. A lot of people just choose to like blatantly ignore, and it's like, what's the point in having a sign there if people are just gonna blatantly ignore that, you know? But then again, I just should say that if something like that did happen, at least the farm could say, well, it wasn't our fault. Because at least they say, oh, well, we did have a sign there, we do have a sign there warning people not to do that. It's not their fault if someone chooses to ignore that sign and chooses to try and, to try and either touch the pig themselves or encourage their child to do that, which is a stupid and very dumb thing to do. Dare I say it, and probably not the safest idea, considering that the pigs might bite. You wouldn't want you wouldn't want a pig to bite your child. So why would you encourage them to do that? I guess some people are just incredibly stupid. That's the problem. You know, I feel like there's no point trying to warn these people about, warn these people. Sometimes it goes in one ear and out the other with, certain people. It's just tough. Like it's just hard. You don't like to see things like that. You don't like to see people ignoring these signs there that are so blatant. It's like, I'd like to imagine that he obviously just didn't notice the sign, but my question is like, how do you not notice that sign? Because that sign was that very clear for people to see. It wasn't like it was easy to miss the sign. It was there. You clearly see it. It was on the part of the fence that where people would very clearly see it. In big letters, do not try to touch the pigs because they might bite. You can touch the sheep, that's fine. You can touch the goats, that's fine. I mean, obviously you can't touch the chickens because they're in age. Not like Brooks Farm when I used to be at Brooks. The chickens used to be out of that cage and walking about. But obviously, in a mud sheep, they have all of their chickens in the cage and things like that, probably for safety reasons, or probably to, you know, not only for the safety of the public, but also for the safety of the chickens themselves, I guess. Stop them wandering off and going missing, I suppose. Um, but I mean, obviously, Mushroom Farm, Mushroom Farm, it'd probably be very easy for the chickens to go missing, Brooks Farm wouldn't have been that easy, but Um, but I mean, obviously, the only animals you can't really touch are the cows and the pigs. They're the only animals that people are advised not to try and touch because of their tendency to bite. And I guess, yeah, and it is sad that people choose to kind of ignore those signs that, especially when you think about the fact that signs are there for, public safety, or they're there to keep the public safe, and are there to stop people from getting hurt. But you can't blame the farm when people are choosing to follow, they're choosing not to, they choose to blatantly disregard those signs, you know, and do something that the sign is warning them not to do. If they want to be an idiot and do something, if they want to be an idiot and ignore the warning, the safety signs, ignore the warning signs warning them not to do something, then that's their problem. You know, then that's down to them. You know, it's down to them. If they get hurt, it's on their head B. It's not on the farm's head. It's not down to them. If someone gets hurt, it's down to the person who wasn't following the safety signs. You know, it's down to that person who was doing something. The signs when there were signs warning them not to do that exact thing. You know, that's what it comes down to. You know, if something like that did happen, we all know the farm probably wouldn't be to blame for that. And I think we can all guarantee that the farm wouldn't be to blame for it. But, you know, I'm sure some people would still try to blame the farm, even though it's not their fault. But what can you do? You know, I mean, I'm sure, I mean, how many people say, oh, well, we didn't notice the sign. The sign's there, the sign is there, they're very, very clear for people to see. So how the fuck do people not notice it? It's not about people not noticing it. It's about people showing a blatant disregard for the safety signs. You know, that's what it comes down to. I mean, me, I don't really tend to touch the animals. To be honest, I'm a bit reluctant to do that as of this whole Cryptosporidium thing I've seen being talked about. Obviously, I know that can cause respiratory problems, like with digestive problems, like digestive problem, not digestive problems, but abdominal problems as well. So probably, I mean, I guess as long as you're washing your hands after you've touched the animals, it's not too bad. But you know, it's always probably always best to do that. But I mean, I don't like to touch the animals. You know, I'd rather keep my hands clean than infect my hands with germs that may have come from the animals. You know, I mean, I'm surprised most of the animals. I mean, especially the sheep, they've got like thick wool on them. I'm surprised that it's like how do they manage to keep wool during this like warm weather? Um, yeah, it's crazy. I always think it's a shame that Mud Street Farm had to get rid of their horses though. I think it was like a financial thing, like they couldn't afford to keep them anymore. I think it is what it came down to. I think because they lost a lot of money and they just weren't able to keep the horses. And I remember years ago they used to do horse riding lessons at Mudview. As I remember we did them once when I was in primary school, when I was at Cherry Trees. Um, we used to that was one of like the off-site PE lessons that we did was horse riding. I mean, it was quite fun. Um, I mean, farms are nice, but they're very smelly places, obviously. Um, why wouldn't they be smelly places? I feel like pits smell the worst. You know, I don't know why. I just feel like pigs seem to smell the worst. Like sheep doesn't smell too bad. It doesn't smell too bad. Like house shit probably smells a bit. I mean, yeah, house shit's a bit smelly. To be fair, I mean, is it house shit or is it manure? I mean, it call it manure, and that the shit that comes out of households. I mean, Jesus Christ. I feel for the people that have to clean up that fucking shit that comes out their arse. Oh God. Um, but yeah, as I said, I just like I want to do a little video on that, kind of giving my thoughts on this situation on that. I hope I see you for another video soon. Bye bye.